Welcome everyone. Today's discussion is about one of the most critical imperatives for business today, data privacy and the future of data privacy from compliance to competitive advantage. In a world where data is a strategic asset, privacy is no longer just about compliance. It's about competitive advantage, consumer trust, and long term business resilience. Joining me today is Pavithra Iyengar, a thought leader in data privacy and risk management with an extensive experience in privacy governance, AI ethics, and compliance strategy. Pavithra, welcome. It's a great to have you here.
Thank you so much. And it's definitely great to be here. So, probably I'll take this ahead from what you just said that privacy has evolved a lot beyond being just a legal requirement. So, it's more of a core governance measure now, which helps define a company's reputation, resilience, and financial strategy. So it's not more of something which a company just needs to pull along. It's become something which the company needs to live by and act by as a cultural requirement now. And I think how, like, what we can discuss today would could be broken down into a few major pointers. So the first one is embedding privacy cross functionally, the evolving role of a DPO in the governance structure, how to balance compliance with the business growth, and emerging privacy enhancing technologies or PETs, and also how to shift privacy left, i.e., how to embed privacy early on in the product development lifecycle. And obviously, any conversation these days cannot be without AI. So, how can we do privacy automation and drive privacy automation and ethical AI and everything in keeping in mind what generative AI things are there in the market now.
Great. So
So let's
I
get
have
it.
kept it couple of segments. So our segment one, let's talk about privacy, a
Mhm.
governance imperative, and business resilience. So you being a privacy professional, many organizations still see privacy as a regulatory burden, but leading enterprises recognize it as a strategic governance measure that enhances resilience against reputational and financial risk. The role of data protection officers or DPO has transformed no longer just a compliance enforcer, but a key executive shaping risk strategy, advising on AI ethics, and embedding privacy across business functions. It is not only with the DPO or the chief privacy office or chief risk officer or the chief compliance officer, it is go beyond, including HR, marketing, sales, and so on and so forth. So, Pavitra, how should enterprises structure their governance model to ensure privacy resilience?
Great question. And I'm going to pick it up from where you left that
Yeah.
privacy is not something which lies under a single vertical. It's a cross-functional uh, business function. I would like to call it a business function. So, and that's where it all begins. Like privacy governance should be more proactive, risk-based, and it needs to be embedded across all business units, not just within the legal or compliance or IT or any other function.
Yeah.
And the key steps would be to basically integrate privacy into your enterprise risk management framework. And that is something which will enable you to take privacy to the next level, which is basically, or should I say, to the highest level, basically to the board. And this is also something which comes from the regulations like GDPR and all the regulations across the world, where the DPO is supposed to report to the highest function. And in the recent past, we also saw a fine being imposed on, the name of the company is escaping my mind, but the fine was on the fact that the DPO wasn't having the right lines of reporting, and they weren't reporting to the highest levels of the government. I mean, of the organizations. So that is definitely something which would be one of the key steps. And the third one would be to shift privacy left. Like we will have to embed privacy early on in the product development life cycle and not as an afterthought, because that would involve a lot of cost and effort going in, and we don't want that for privacy. And like in any governance measure, like everything depends on how you monitor it, how you review it, how you audit it. So with privacy also we will have to do that. Like there needs to be regular data protection impact assessments or privacy impact assessments, however you call it, regular compliance reviews and audits, etc., so that we ensure that we are completing the feedback loop and getting the results back and improving the process. So yeah, that's how I would do it.
Superb, spot on. So the segment two is very close to my heart because I've been into growth and business. So privacy as a revenue generator, the return on investment (ROI) of privacy investment. So privacy is often seen as a cost center, but when it done right, it delivers clear ROI. Organizations investing in privacy first design, AI driven compliance, and PETs, right? The privacy enhancing technologies we talk about, right? Are seeing as a higher consumer trust and retention, stronger brand reputation, reduce operational costs from automated privacy management. So, Pavithra, I want to understand how should organizations approach privacy spend as a business investment rather than a compliance cost?
Indeed. And like, if it's close to your heart, and it's definitely close to mine as well, because it is very important to look at privacy from a ROI angle rather than a cost angle, because we see every other country coming out with their regulations and everything. And we will have to make sure that the company inherently is structured towards complying with those privacy principles rather than going back to every regulation and saying, oh, okay, we're missing this, let's do this. So the first thing is that we are seeing a lot of leading companies starting to publish annual transparency reports, which basically informs about the privacy leadership in the company. It helps foster consumer confidence and helps show shareholder value. And given that the consumers are getting more aware day by day, I think this would be a very big differentiator. Like it's not a tax anymore. It could be a very big cost differentiator and something which would enable sustainable business growth. And I think the key ways you could end up driving uh, ROI from a privacy investment point of view would be to automate things. If you automate the basic things that are required to be done from a privacy perspective, like say for example consent management, vendor due diligences, DPIAs, ROPAs, and everything, that could reduce your compliance cost quite a bit and the time and effort that gets invested in it, and you would still end up getting the right results. Second thing would be implementation of data minimization techniques, because that would not only enhance your security posture and reduce your breach risk, but additionally, it would also enable you to process only the data which is necessary. And hence, you would end up saving on storage costs and gu- the principle of garbage in, garbage out. If you don't have any garbage in, you probably wouldn't have a garbage out, and that can be handled at the data collection stage. And hence data minimization is something which could go a long way in demonstrating uh, the return on investment for data privacy measures. And along the same lines is also data retention. If you don't retain it longer, again you save on storage costs, etc., etc. So kind of on the same lines. And the third thing would be to embed it in product design. So like I said before, if it's not an afterthought and something which you're considering at the architecture stage or when you're doing the review of the product or the use case development, if you have privacy at that stage, then you end up making a better product overall, and you are not really worried about every time a new regulation comes up. You know that your product is inherently privacy safe. So that's how I would think about it.
Great inputs. Thank you for your insight. Next, we will talk about privacy and AI, balancing innovation with ethics. AI is evolving and AI is revolutionizing privacy management, but it also raises ethical concerns such as bias, transparency, and algorithmic no fairness. AI can automate data classification, real-time risk detection, consent management, but how do we ensure these systems remain ethical, explainable, and unbiased? Pavitra, based on your experience, what is your take on ensuring AI-driven privacy solutions remain responsible?
This is a very crucial question, especially in this age when we are looking at AI enabling everything. So we
Yeah.
have to see what is the extent that AI can enable and how do you ensure that it's morally and ethically right? So there are a lot of standards and frameworks which are around responsible AI. So I guess the first thing would be to look at those responsible AI frameworks, the OECD principles on AI, etc., to see what is it that they are saying about the ethical AI systems. And you would have to ensure that there is some level of transparency in algorithmic decision making. It shouldn't be a black box where you don't know what how the output has been arrived at. So that is definitely one thing which you have to look at. Secondly, is using AI to help with more privacy measures like differential privacies or multi-party computations, etc., which can help protect user data. But again, you will have to see how the AI functions, and this is not a one size fits all because the models are trained differently, the models operate differently, they have different algorithms in the back end. So you would definitely need a robust technology team to go in and understand how a particular LLM is working and how it's arriving at the decision. And privacy enhancing technologies play a very important role here when we talk about AI as well, because a lot of PETs can be enhanced by AI, but at the same time, again, we'll have to go back and do a proper review. You would probably have to do a DPIA to understand how the AI is working in the back end. And there are also a lot of security measures as well, which a company needs to look at when they're uploading their proprietary data onto AI models, and how is it going to use them, and what's the kind of output that comes in. So there are a lot of GDPR recitals and guidance notes around AI, which is something that companies who are willing to go ahead with AI enablement should definitely read about and understand. Yeah.
Great points. So AI must be governed with ethical principles to mitigate bias and enhance consumer trust. Thank you for your
Mhm.
inputs. Let's move to the global privacy landscape and the Brussels effect. So the Brussels effect, where stringent European regulations like GDPR influence global policies, and it is reshaping how the enterprises approach privacy worldwide. Companies operating internationally must understand local nuances while implementing a scalable global privacy framework. Pavitra, how should organizations navigate international privacy compliance?
Thank you for the question. This is something which we do day in and day
Yeah.
out. So I think what you said on the Brussels effect is definitely spot on. Like, rather than looking at every regulation as a regulation that needs to be complied as, one should probably look at it as as a culture change that needs to happen in an organization. It should not every change that you make based on a regulation should be something which is applicable across the regulation, and you should across the organization, and you should also look at what the best practices are. It makes more sense to go ahead and implement the best practices than to do a compliance evaluation every time a new regulation comes out. Like in the US, like every state is coming out with a new law,
Yeah.
and like the 50 states, how many laws will you comply with? Can you be compliant with every law individually? No. So unified compliance framework is something which is definitely required, and that involves understanding the regional laws as well as the laws which govern your industry as a whole, in building out a scalable global privacy framework rather than something which is constrained to one jurisdiction, etc. Because more often than not, we don't see companies operating in one jurisdiction these days. Every company is multinational now, so you can't it's not possible to say that I'm going to comply with one regulation but I'll figure out what to do when the next one comes out. This is not an approach which you can adopt. And also, privacy by design principles are something which has been there before GDPR, and privacy by design, privacy by default is probably the best way to go ahead, where you think about privacy in everything. And more often than not, the principles of privacy, or the seven holy grail principles of privacy, remain the same across regulations. From what I've seen, the regulations have very small departures, but overall, they all say the same thing.
Great. That means companies that embrace global privacy standards will be better positioned to lead in the digital trust economy, right?
For sure.
So, so by next segment, The rise of privacy conscious, consumers today are very privacy conscious, and they want to attach to a company for a long time if the enterprise or the government protect their PII, or you call it PHI or PFI, right? Personal finance information. So the rise of privacy conscious consumer, where today consumers are more privacy conscious than ever, and they demand transparency on data usage, control over their personal information. Accountability, is a major key in AI driven decision making. So organizations that prioritize these elements will win in long run. So Pavitra, based on your experience, how can you see companies align with this shift?
Spot on when you say the consumer is getting more privacy aware. Like if I take the my example itself, like couple of years ahead, I mean, couple of years before, how much I used to read the privacy policies of companies before I log in on a website and click accept, and now how much I do it, it's probably very different. I want to make sure that my data is protected. I want to make sure that my data is private. I'm putting an effort towards it. And the global regulations are also encouraging that, because everything has become more consumer first. Consumer needs to be given the data subject rights to do this, to do that. So regulations are also understanding that, and consumers are getting on the bandwagon. So they have become very aware. So brands that publish privacy reports or offer clear data privacy controls options, ensure algorithmic fairness, would end up attracting loyal customers, and that's what helps the company build out a better consumer base. And obviously the privacy first companies don't just, I mean, they're not following, they will be leading by examples, and those are the ones where consumers will go ahead and build the relationship with.
Well said. Privacy is not about compliance, it's a business growth enabler, I can say, right? And companies that embed privacy into governance, AI, and product design, you said earlier, will be the leaders of tomorrow. So Pavitra, any final thoughts?
I would potentially reiterate on what you just said. So, privacy is not a checkbox now exercise. It's more of a leadership principle and something that every company needs to be thinking about proactively. And risk-based approach to identifying what the risks are on your organizations and tackling them with priority and building out a compliance roadmap on how you would like to do is probably something which every company needs to be thinking about to ensure that they stand long in this run, because this is not something which is going to end soon. This is something which is going to continue for the foreseeable future, and it makes logical and strategic sense to be thinking about it rather than just from a compliance or regulatory angle. And I would also like to add that all of these are personal thoughts and coming from experience and not based on any affiliation that I have at the moment. Thank you
Great
so much.
insight. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you.
consumers, regulators, as well as the investors, all are prioritizing data ethics and privacy. Organizations that step up today will define the digital economy tomorrow.
Indeed.
So, audience, if you are new to Data Safeguard, we at Data Safeguard built ID Redact, the most comprehensive AI-powered privacy management platform of products to help organizations meet information privacy, communication privacy, and individual privacy compliance, and avoid paying fines. Ours is a patent technology powered by CCE, our homegrown AI engine called Cognizable Computing Engine. And ID Redux automates global privacy acts compliance, reduces cost and timeline, and minimizes the workload of your client's internal teams. The platform can be deployed in your client's or your data center or cloud container within 2 weeks, and we can show ROI in 4 weeks. And it is the seven core tenets of platform built upon the privacy by design framework consists of, let's say, seven core tenets: universal consent management, confidential data discovery, privacy impact assessment, data subject access request, confidential data redaction, compliance audit, and all put together data privacy management. All the modules are pre-integrated as a single Docker image and doesn't need any integration work from your technology team. Thank you all for joining. Please like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments, and we will answer you back. Pavitra, I appreciate your time on this Friday afternoon. And audience, See you next time, and thank you, Pavitra.